Reading in bed.
Right, Amanda. What are we doing today?
We're doing Reading in Bed, episode 56.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I double-checked before we went on.
We're not doing story time today with Andy and Amanda, are we? And we're not doing
No story
doing top
time.
of the label again, spoken label special. We've not
No,
restarted Comics Unity with the wonderful Michael Bradbury again, aren't we?
no. He's lost to the world of podcasting.
Yeah, Michael, please come back. Anyway, so that leaves us then reading in bed, doesn't it? So, what is reading in bed, Amanda?
It's a book review podcast.
Yeah. And what
It doesn't necessarily mean that we only review books that we've read in bed, like some people seem to think when they get in touch with us.
Oh, I know. We've had some very strange messages of people wondering about reading in bed over the times. That's for sure of it. So, but anyway, that's story another day. So, of course, Reading in Bed is a book review podcast. How many books do we normally review, Amanda?
Anywhere between 3 and 6, depending on how busy we've been.
Yeah, and obviously, like if we're doing split joint books together and stuff. So how many books are we doing today, Amanda?
I believe we have 5 between us.
Yeah, one book we've both read, not at the same time. Please notice, we've not been, because this one was a paperback we were kind sent to us, and we didn't ripping it out as she was handing. My turn to read a page, were we? I
did try that, but it got pretty annoying after a while.
Yeah, we nearly didn't have episode 56 of Reading in Bed. That's all I'm going to say. If we'd carried on that approach,
didn't have a marriage.
It would have been Divorced in Bed, episode 56, a finale if we'd done the carried on doing that. So now, but of course, before we get to book reviews, what else do we do, Amanda?
We do news.
News, yes. Now, I've got news. I know you've got news as well, Amanda. So, ladies first.
So, my alter ego, which is a zombie influencer, has a new series out called My Big Fat Zombie Life.
Yeah, and what's the series about, Amanda?
It's about a zombie influencer that's helping other zombies deal with being a zombie.
Yeah.
It's a very important issue with so many zombies out there.
Oh, completely. Now, there's a few things we do need to update people with on this, Amanda, don't we? First of all, we need to make people aware that unlike what we said last month, if you're on all the networks, it's not as big as the case, Amanda, is it? So, because what's exactly happened with it?
We was hoping that the video on Anchor would mean that it'd be like in quite a few places as video, but apparently it only just goes to Spotify, and it doesn't really work without video. So we're just doing it on YouTube and Instagram. But if you go to Instagram, you can see it, Amanda Steele 37. Or if you search My Big Fat Zombie Life on YouTube, I'm sure it'll come up. There can't be that many people.
No, I think
that in as the headline for the video.
I think it's likely to be a one-off that possibly. So yeah, definitely. So yeah, the first episode came out Friday, wasn't it? You say Friday just gone.
Yeah, so it's going to be every Friday. So I've set the next one to premiere on Friday morning, 9 o'clock UK time.
Yeah, and what Amanda's planning to do with this, whenever you're interested, is she's planning to actually make it an ongoing series where she'll keep doing an episode every Friday, Amanda, won't you? For the next 10 years.
Maybe not 10 years. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, well, we'll see. You could be into seasons, aren't you? Seriously, I know that already. So I said, so you could definitely know you've got a number planned out for the first series, but you can tell people like yourself that in future episodes. So check it out. It's fantastic. Right, shall I go on to my news now, Amanda?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hinting at this more last month, but I've got the final proof now done pretty well. So I'm going to bring this out probably August in September. But I've got my 7th full-length poetry book now. It's all completed. I need to do a quick reread on it. Obviously, do a final edit. And then I've got to get the blurb on the back of the book wrote and confirm the intro, which I need to look at again. But it's called From the Diabetic Ward, Volume 1. And this is a book that was dangling around for some years, and it's various reasons it kept getting delayed. And this is about the first 4 or 5 years when I was diabetic. So it's not exactly a cheerful book, but it's something I've needed writing for quite some time. So that should be out imminently. So watch your space. So,
Yeah.
right, Amanda. Should we head on to reading in bed book reviews?
Yeah, we need to review a book, don't
we? We do, yes. Okay. What should we do first?
I think we should do the joint book.
Okay, then. And that being the case, then, do you want me to do the blurb? Or would you like to do the blurb? Okay.
You can do the blurb.
The book itself is by Kathryn Lund, and the book's called The Things We Left Sleeping. Blurb. Evie and Steve share everything. A bed, their dingy flat above the kebab shop. Evie's loving and normal parents, Linda and Dave. When Linda dies, and Evie starts suffering from seizures, Evie and Stevie pull apart into separate, isolated worlds. Evie's world looks like a farm, a black barn, a cold house where it is always snowing. Stevie's world is full of problems. She's avoided in places she doesn't want to return to. Yet she must if she's going to get to Evie and find a place where they can be together again. Divided into two complementary narratives, The Things We Left Sleeping by Kathryn Lund is about the journeys we make through grief and illness to get back to life. Right, Amanda. Shall we go straight into this then?
Yeah.
Now, I have to be honest with this, where I've done my setup. Did my review already. It's on Goodreads, etc. I didn't actually bother splitting this into strengths and weaknesses, so I've just done it as one straight thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to. How have you done your notes, Amanda, for this?
I've done my positive and I've done my negative. So
I didn't know if anyone was wondering that. That's a hint on Amanda straight away there. Positive and negatives. Oh dear.
Yeah, this is going to be interesting, actually.
Yeah, this was certainly. I think you can agree with me this one, Amanda, before we start. It was a book that I've not read a book like this before, if I ever have, for quite a long time. So give us your strength, Amanda, and we'll talk about that and we'll then discuss things further about the next ones.
I felt like it was a really in-depth look into the mind of the characters, especially Evie, as her mental health deteriorated. And it's like, as the reader, you're experiencing the madness and the fever dreams of her, because it's like very close up.
Yeah, same for me as well. It was very, very intense. Now, I've got to be honest with this, and I think, from what I could understand, I think I probably enjoyed this probably more than Amanda did. It's one of these sort of books, really, where you could argue it's possibly more than an art statement in places an actual book. Does that make sense? Does it really?
Yeah.
Because like it was, and I know what certainly my father and brother would have said about this, and it would have been probably a bit more blunt than what you're going to be saying in a few minutes about being arty nonsense, basically. But no, I actually got it. I really, really enjoyed it, but it's a challenging book because the book itself, people wonder, there's two viewpoints in the book. And I forget which way around it is. I think Evie was on the left and Stevie was on the right. Was that right?
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
right.
I know you weren't happy with one bit about where sentences were getting cut off halfway through on one side.
We'll get on to that when I cover the negative part.
Well, we'll do that in a minute then. But yeah, like I said, it's a tricky book, this one, and it really, really is a tricky book because I'm honest, I'm glad we got it as a paperback because I think it would have done my head in as a kid, if I'm honest, as a Kindle, this one. But
I don't know how it would have worked on a Kindle because you can't really control how it goes because different Kindles have different size screens and part of it would go onto the wrong page and I don't really know how you'd get that to work. It'd be a nightmare formatting it. I'm glad it wouldn't be something I'd want to do.
No, that's fair enough. What we're best doing, man? Give us your negatives and we'll go through it.
The other positive thing I've got first is that it kept me guessing a lot when they've got the notebook when she's in what she calls the farm, which is clearly like the hospital, and she's got the notebook and there's like another part of her that's like talking to her. And it's like 1 minute it seems like it's trying to help you, and the other minute it seems like it's like causing more harm than good. And at one point I wondered if it might be schizophrenia or maybe another personality, or maybe just like the way you talk to yourself, like when you're feeling a bit down and you try to snap yourself out of it.
No, that's a fair point. It's a fair point. So I guess it kept me guessing in it because It's like I said, the book itself is close to 400 pages, so it is a lengthy read. But I found obviously also what is curious about it was, and then I want to know your opinions, man, before we go into weaknesses, unless this is one of your weaknesses. I noticed there was no numbers on any of the pages, was there?
No.
And that's why it seemed like you got through the book fairly quickly, because I don't think there was in places there was tons of text on it, and that's why it's a fascinating book. So right, give us your weaknesses, and we'll go through it all, discuss it bit by bit.
Okay, so the switching points of view mid-sentence meant I had to try and remember where one part left off while reading the other point of view. And I think that's always going to take some of the attention away from what you're reading in the present moment then.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think I was doing it bit by bit, chunk by chunk, and I think it's one of those sort of books really where you've got to really it's a book that you've really got to pay attention to, because some books you can read much more casually, like I'll do with my second book I'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, I think this is a challenging book. It's certainly not a book for everybody, that's for sure with it.
Yeah, and I think as well, because the pages themselves and the story itself was like quite confusing and like very close up, it was hard to sort of keep track of that and then also keep track of like the last thing somebody said by the time you go back to it while you're reading the other person's point of view.
Yeah, no, that's fair
And
enough. It's a
I
fair
think
point.
the interesting thing in that is that I've mentioned that's a positive as well, but it's also a negative at the same time.
Yeah. Did you actually think, Amanda, with this book, it was one of the most unorthodox books you've read for quite a while?
I think it was, but when we studied, I know you said she's done creative writing MA, and I remember when we studied the creative writing MA, and we were shown like lots of different texts to study, and there was like
Hmm.
experimental pieces, and there was one extract we had to read where there was like no dialogue tags or any clue about who was speaking, and we was told that was experimental, and I thought, well, fair enough, but I've read this 3 times now, and I don't know who's talking. And it reminded me a little bit of that. Like, it's fine, it's your right as the author to be experimental, but then it's the readers, they're not necessarily going to understand it.
I think it's possibly it's got a niche market in this book, and that's not bad mouthing it at all, because I think there definitely is a market for this. And I know I've got writer friends that will certainly enjoy it more than others. And like I said, it's a difficult book, and there's no two ways about it with it. And I really enjoyed it, but I can see what you're getting at with it, Amanda, as well.
Yeah.
Right, have you got anything else specific you need to talk about this book, Amanda? If I go on a few points I've got to cover.
No, I think I've covered what I needed to say.
Right, yeah, I agree with you certainly over the that I said before with that. And I found it really interesting about, you're right with it, about the use of the farm, mentions to the farm in it, because there was a bit of repetition on that in places. I think it was possibly overdone, actually, that bit of the farm. What did you think to
Yeah.
that?
I feel like it's a take on the funny farm because like mental health hospitals used to be called the funny farm, didn't they?
Yeah,
Like, oh, she's nuts, lock her up in the funny farm kind of thing, people might have said.
yeah, no, it's true. It's I think it's obviously I'm due to a chat to this writer at some point in the autumn at the Spoken Label, and I've got some fascinating questions I want to ask her about this book. And that's one certainly I will be asking her about on the farm and the reference to the funny farm. And they always say as well, Amanda, don't you? Like whenever you're a novelist or a writer, there's got to be something of you in the book, hasn't there? And
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see which part of these characters is closest to the author, because it felt like to me in place it was very, very close to the truth, but she has been very abstract on a way with it as well.
Yeah.
That's why. So certainly, the other point I want to ask about is, yeah, what did you reckon to the relationship with Stevie's relationship with Evie's dad?
Yeah, it was a strange one. They seemed like a bit prickly together at first, and then it was almost like he was treating her like she was his second daughter.
Yeah, it was interesting that, because obviously like, it showed at the beginning of the book there clearly was tension there over the death of his wife, and obviously like I said the mother. Like I said, but it's like I found him quite an interesting character, but again, I would like to know more about him. If I'm honest with you, possibly as well with that. But I suppose you can't cover everything in the redoing the book this intense like that, because it'd have been probably 700 pages. So Right, well, I've got nothing else I want to say about this, Amanda, really. So, should we get on to marking?
Yeah.
Ladies first.
Okay, so normally a 7 or more is a recommendation, and I'm giving it a 6, but it's still kind of unofficially a recommendation, but it's just not going to be very straightforward to read.
I give it an 8, actually, to be honest with you. Because obviously we look at when people wonder when we do that, we round it up, don't we, like into the half mark. So it gets a 7 out of 10. So it is a recommendation for reading in bed, but I do agree with you, the book's not straightforward, and it's one. I don't think it's a good way to put this, man, isn't it? If you want to take books away on holiday and read them, say, by the pool and stuff, I don't think this is that sort of book, really, is it?
No, no, unless you want to throw yourself the face down into the pool afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's one you've really got to pay attention to, and that's not a bad thing, actually, really. And it's also like, I think it's also good the fact like we've both got split opinions with the book. And actually, it shows you sometimes what, like, when we review books, usually we're roughly about the same mark, aren't we? I usually tend to agree,
Yeah,
but like
but
this is,
we've had times where I've given a book an 8 and you've given it a 2, or the other way around, and we've like almost divorced over it live on the podcast.
yeah, I remember there was a zombie book that was a bit like the X-Men versus.
Oh, we both hated that.
Oh, that's the very second London. That book was called Second. Everyone's checked that. Check it was first episode we ever did. Both despised that book, and then there was another one where, oh God, was it a bit like the X-Men? Came like X-Men on meets Walking Dead, didn't it? And I quite enjoyed it, but I didn't fancy the second book. And you hated that, and I didn't mind the first one. It was a bit like Jack Reacher and X-Men versus The Walking Dead. I forgot the name of it as well. But
yeah, that's probably for the best.
Probably, yeah. I said, well, I said it's on this book itself. It's like I said, we might have split opinions on it, but I think you can say, Amanda, like me, it's a book to admire, even if you don't like it really in places, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, I wouldn't have liked to be writing it because I'm just thinking of the format inside of it.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's fair enough, to be honest. Yeah. It's interesting. Interesting. Like I said, we've got a split opinion on it, but it's one where the point. But tell me you agree with me. You've got. I think it's definitely a paperback one to read, more of a Kindle, I think. But anyway, 7 out of 10. Reading in bed recommends. Right, guys and girls, that's it for part 1. Is it me? Is me or you next one? It's me, isn't it? So
you're next.
Well, I'm next then. Okay. What do you want for as a hint?
Whatever you think will give us a clue.
Right. People are wondering, obviously, we're celebrating our first wedding anniversary in September, actually. And what are we doing for it, Amanda?
Going to Blackpool.
Yeah, what's in Blackpool? What will we be walking up and down a lot on?
The floor.
God. Jesus. I know, right? No. This book I'm going to read the next isn't called On the Floor. That's the best way to put it to you, right? Anyway, I'll come back in a minute then. We'll go on to this book about it. It's not called On the Floor, right? God, give me strength, right?
Reading in bed.
Welcome back to Reading in Bed with me, Amanda Nicholson, and
Andy Steele. Oh, sorry, I'm getting that.
I made you change your name by default.
Yes, Andy N, of course, right. So, okay, guys and girls, yeah, my first solo book of the month. Yes, and it is not called On the Floor, like Amanda.
No, but that's the title of my next book.
Oh, I'm not going to answer that. Right, well, the book is called On the Beach, if you're wondering, because Blackpool is one long beach. Hint, hint, Amanda.
Yeah.
The book itself is by the writer called Nevil Shute. So, okay, I'll go into the blurb of this, Amanda, okay? Ready?
Yeah.
After a nuclear World War III has destroyed most of the globe, the few remaining survivors in southern Australia await the radioactive cloud that is heading their way and bringing certain death to everybody in its path. Among them is American submarine captain, struggling to resist the knowledge that his wife and children in the United States must be dead. Then a faint Morse code signal is picked up transmitting somewhere near Seattle, and Captain Towers must lead his submarine crew on a bleak tour of the ruined world in a desperate search for life. On the beach is a remarkable, convincing portrait of how ordinary people might face the most unimaginable nightmare.
Okay, so how did you find out about this book?
Oh, yikes, this goes back a bit, this, because people are wondering, obviously, first of all, I've recently picked a copy of this up with Mum and Dad, actually, because my sister's friend, Louise, one of her friends, her mum, unfortunately, has gone into a home, and what I can understand. And long story short of it, she rang Louise's friend rang her up asking, does she want to look at all these books her mum's got to take a few back with her? And I told you how many books there was, Amanda, didn't I?
Oh yeah, thousands and thousands and
12,000
thousands.
books, yeah. And
Yeah.
she came back with Louise. She came back with about 10 for me. What was it now? Louise came back about 400. And she came back with about 500 from her dad. I think you give her she normally checked with him and named a few authors and kept piling books into his bag.
Yeah,
And
that should keep him busy.
well, yeah, I'm getting keep busy at Christmas now on my dad. But the result was when I went down there some Saturdays back anyway. I don't think you were with me, Amanda. I came
No.
back with some books and there was a few extras there that basically that had come across and that my mum and dad weren't going to keep. But this was one of them. Now I'd heard Nevil Shute before, and I know of I think there's a film version of this knocking around as well. I think I saw it at uni, so I definitely knew of this book and the other book. I've got a town like Alice. I hadn't read either of them, so they were from uni days. So that's why I got this, and it was interesting actually. Shall I tell people a bit about the background of this book, Amanda, if I go into strengths or weaknesses?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the book itself was originally published in 1957. And it's quite a short novel, actually, taking place in Melbourne, Australia, a year or so after a nuclear world war wiped everything in the Northern Hemisphere and was blowing death slowly down through radioactive clouds into Australia, which was the last country still alive. And obviously, we're like the last people on Earth. So, how have you reacted to a book like this, Amanda? Have you been reading it?
I don't know, really. We've read sort of more modern versions of that, haven't we?
Yeah, and it's the more modern version of it would have been like people reacting in very different ways.
Yeah.
But this book doesn't. And that's what's really, really, I won't say weird about it. It's interesting because the people are like just carrying out their normal lives. And like, it was like there's bits in the book where doctors are continuing to perform life saving and life extending surgery. And then you find casual references now coming up saying, it won't be long now. Like it's almost like they're carrying on as normal until the world ends.
Yeah.
Very,
Well, I
very
think
weird.
that was before social media as well, and it's like it'd be different then. It's like now, it's like everything would be on social media, and you'd get people panicking, and you'd get other people saying it's all a conspiracy and coming up with even crazier conspiracy theories.
Yeah, no, it's true. This book definitely predates that. And because of that, it's quite interesting because the book's told at a very leisure-like pace and leaves you afterwards thinking, did these people live the last few months in a state of denial?
Yeah,
Because there's no happy ending in this book. It's honest, everybody dies. And it's sad, heartbreaking sad at the end when you're left thinking like a lot more modern version, you're thinking, well, human society will find a way of saving themselves. This book doesn't do that.
yeah.
No
I
happy
think you've
ending.
probably got a point there where people would be in denial at least to like a certain point, or just try not to think about it. Because it's like
Yeah,
if you sort of think there's anything you can do about it, it's like that'll be the next thing to sort of be in denial, won't it?
yeah. The book itself has had a few reviews who have said like it's incredibly unrealistic. I don't think it is because you're looking back at when it's done, like it was Britain 57, came down, you get into 1960s when we had a real threat to World War III. I think the people are reacting in it a way that had probably been common at the time for them.
Yeah,
Nowadays, people are in panicking and stuff more, wouldn't they, and stuff like that. But I think this is a very, very more understated book for that reason. And
yeah,
it was a fascinating book actually. It was only relatively short. I think it was 250 pages maybe. I think if it had gone on for 500 odd pages, if you know what I mean, it'd have been really, really, it would have been overdone. So, but I did really enjoy it certainly for what it was.
okay. So is there anything else you want to say about it?
Oh well, I said 40 years. Most of it's about the American captain, and he meets through his friends in Australia, a young lady, and it's the relationship there is like it's hinting all the time, but he wasn't going to cheat on his wife because he was living in denial. She was alive still. That's why, and I think that was quite touching. She knew that herself when the world was ending. Well, she made do with what she had, basically, and it was quite touching. A very understated book. It was really nice.
Yeah.
Could you have read a book like that, Amanda? I mean, what your reaction been like to what I've said before? But would you have felt it was a bit weird the way it was done?
I suppose so, but I couldn't really say for sure without reading it.
I'll pass it over to you some points. Wait for it, just out of curiosity, but I want to see what you think of it. So, anyway, guys, that's all I've got to say about it.
Okay, so what's the mark out of 10?
What do you think I'm going to give this?
I think it's going to be a recommendation.
Yeah, it's 8 out of 10. So it's good. It's a good book, but it's dated. It is dated, but it's interesting. So, right, well, that's the end of part 2. Part 3 is when we go on to Amanda. What hints have you got for us? Have you got a good hint this time?
I can't really give you a hint, so I'm just going to give you the title and leave you to think about it.
Oh, you let us stew in it, are you? Right, go on then.
It's Good Husbands.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Sorry, apologies.
I was going to say it's what you are, but considering what the story is about, it's really nothing like about what you are, and you wouldn't want it to be about what
wait
you
till you
are.
see. Wait till you get the title of my second solo book, right? That's all I'm going to say.
Is it
right?
Good Wives?
No, it's not Good Wives, but you're going to like the title.
Bad
right?
Wives.
Nope, you're going to like the title. Revenge shall be just out. Right, okay. We'll take a quick break, guys. We'll see you in a minute for part 3. Say bye, wife.
Bye, wife.
Good husband says bye as well. See you in a minute.
Reading in bed.
Andy N.
And Amanda Nicholson.
Reading in bed. Episode whatever it is, right?
For 56.
Okay, I'll lose bloody count, right? Okay, straight over to Amanda if I get mixed up anymore. What book are you doing? Your first solo book, Amanda. Give us a name and the title of the author.
Good Husbands by Cate Ray.
And the blurb then, please.
3 wives, 1 letter, an explosive secret that will change everything. He said, she said, who do you believe? Jessica, Stephanie, and Priyanka are complete strangers, but they have one thing in common. They've each received a letter accusing their husbands of committing a sexual assault more than 2 decades prior. Is the accusation true, or is there more to the story? It was a secret that remained buried for years, with their world suddenly turned upside down. They don't know who to trust, a complete stranger or the men they've loved and built their trust and lives with. The 3 women come together to embark on a hunt for the truth, but they are hardly prepared for what they will discover. Who is the victim, and will justice ultimately be served?
Right, well, I'm not even going to hazard a guess what led Amanda to this book. But everyone's wondering, Amanda, she does have habits when... I know I'm looking at a bookcase at the minute where she's got books in about evil sisters, dead sisters, and zombie sisters and stuff. So are you now moving on to what? Zombie husbands, good husbands, dead husbands, whatever?
I don't know about zombie sisters. I'll have to look up that book if it exists.
Well, okay, I've got to ask you, people wondering, what led you to this book?
Yeah, so this was another book on Pigeonholed, which is a website where authors promote their books by letting people read them for free. And you usually get like 10 stabs, which is like an extract every day until the book's finished.
Cool. Okay, so am I right in thinking this was the month when you had 2 going at once?
Yeah.
Right, well, and
Can't remember which I started. I think I started this one first, and then I started the other about 2 or 3 days later.
Cool. Well, anyway, so we'll not talk about that. We'll talk about more in part 4.
Yeah.
When we go part 5, when you get to your second book. But give us the strengths of this book then. And tell us, obviously, including that, what made you want to read this book then? There must have been something that caught your eye with it.
I think the blurb just really interested me, and I just thought, I mean, I'm studying psychology as well, and I just like to sort of read about like what people would do in certain situations, and everyone says, oh yeah, I'd believe my man, or I'd like go to the police and like grass him up and whatever. But I don't think you actually know until it happens.
Cool. Okay, well, give us the strengths of the book then. I'm presuming you've done it strengths and weaknesses, haven't you?
Yeah. I thought it was really well written and it was like thought out. And the fact that you've got like these three different viewpoints of the women sort of gives you like a different angle and like different reactions. So you can sort of read it and you could think I'm most like this woman and I'd probably react similar to what she did.
So was it? I think when you're doing that, there's obviously varying viewpoints in the book. They can either sink or swim a book, and sometimes it can. And was this quite a difficult book to follow with the varying viewpoints?
I think the women were quite different. So obviously it's labelled anyway, so you know who's talking. But I think without that, you could probably guess who's talking because you've got Jessica, which is the woman who's sort of pushing the other two women and trying to find out what's going on, even though she wants to believe that her husband hasn't done what he's being accused of. She
Hmm.
also wants to know if it's true or not. And then you've got Priyanka, she's sort of in the middle. And then you've got Stephanie that's just completely denying it. And it's just like, who is this woman? And like, I don't believe my husband's done this, but she's in quite a sort of oppressive relationship.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's. I've also with that sort of book. It's this sort of book. If it's three viewpoints, you've got to make them different as you can. I get you mean like it's obviously like I would have. It doesn't surprise me we've done it that way, where so they're all completely different now. How does explain to me then, obviously, about what was your opinion when this book began like that? Did you believe the three husbands are all guilty? I'm not talking about what you found out at the end or not.
I think I did, yeah, because I mean, obviously, there wouldn't be much of a story without it, but I think just the way they got the letters sent to them,
Hmm.
and you just think, well, why would this woman send these letters to these three women? Because the woman that allegedly got raped, she's dead now, and it's actually the daughter that sent the letters and saying like, this happened to my mum, and this sort of like her illness, and she's dead now, and I just sort of want to let you know that you're married to a rapist.
Yeah, it's a bit unorthodox, I think, John. She's straight away with it. So, well, did you buy it then, as a man, as a book then?
Yeah, because then it also deals with when certain. I'm not going to reveal too much of the plot, but there's certain situations they get into where they're sort of considering telling like the police or seeking legal advice. And it becomes obvious that it's just not, even though they've seen enough to believe that it happened and that they're married to a rapist, it's not going to be enough for the legal system. And it just made a lot of sense and just sort of highlighted the fact that women don't get believed when this stuff happens because there's hardly ever any like concrete proof because people don't leave concrete proof.
Yeah, I think I can get you on about that straight away. I think it's one of those ones, isn't it? So, no, straight with it. So now, obviously, I have to ask her. Carry on with this now. Was there anything else that stood out to you in the strengths of this book before we go on to weaknesses?
Yeah, she could. The author, I've forgotten her name now, Cate Ray. She's done a lot of research. You can tell that, and there was actually a little paragraph in there where one of the women is doing research into what other people would do if they found out they were married to a rapist. And she came across some survey results that said 77% would report a loved one for murder and 76 would report a loved one for rape. And I was lucky enough to attend like a Q&A session online with the author and I sent my question in
Hmm.
and she answered it because I wanted to know if this was actually based on like a real life results. And she said that it was. I think it was something like YouGov or something, a survey on there, and there were results from that.
Ah, right. Interesting. That's it. Maybe straight away with that then. So it's actually she's put some thought into this book immediately then. So that's good. So it wasn't like one of those books that are flash in the pan sort of thing then, really. Definitely. Is there anything else we need to touch on specifically on strengths before we go on to weaknesses?
No,
Right. Was there anything that you didn't like about this book?
There were a couple of small things near the end which I don't really want to go into because it's near the end of the book and I think people need to read it. So that just affected my mark a tiny little bit.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And we'll keep off the major spoilers then, okay? So, but okay, that being the case, and we better mark it, Amanda, I suppose, hadn't we?
Yeah, so I'm giving it a 9 out of 10.
Whoa. That was more than I expected then, actually. So I thought if you'd been impacted by something that happened, then you might have knocked 2 3 marks off it, we didn't. So, whoa.
It
So,
would have been a 10, but it's a 9 because of the things near the end.
yeah, it's fair enough. And we won't go into that then, okay? So we'll just say, just read the book then. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay, then. That's the end of part 3 already, Amanda. Okay. Now, it's my turn next. What hints do you want?
Something that's not on the floor.
How about evil mothers?
No comment.
That's what the book's called. My Evil Mother.
That sounds nice. I thought she's lovely, really.
Like I said to you, that's what my next book's called, My Evil Mother. So that was ironic, actually, so you've got a husband before, so God says it all.
Yeah, we're just covering all family members on this show, aren't we? We've done sisters. We've probably overdone sisters on previous episodes.
Yeah, we're on to Evil Mothers next. What's your going to be like? Serial Killer Dads, is it, in your final book?
I don't know. I'll have to find a book that's got dads in
here. Right, guys, go seriously. See you in a minute, okay? Say bye, Amanda.
Bye.
Reading in bed.
Welcome back to Reading in Bed. He is.
Andy N. She is.
Mandy N.
Oh, Mandy N, that was it. All right, so we've gone Mandy Steele, and obviously we're on to Mandy N now. So what are you going for next part? Then back to Mandy Steele then, are you? Just to you make confuse people.
The divorced edition.
Oh, bloody hell, right. I know. Okay, right. That's my turn now. Okay, my second book of the month. Okay, what do you want to know, Amanda?
The title and the author.
Okay, I had not told you I've reviewed this, and this always makes this fun, actually. This came off Prime Reads, actually. It's Margaret Atwood, My Evil Mother.
Okay, so is this fiction or non-fiction?
It looks like it's fiction. I don't think her mother was anything like this. Is that fair enough?
Yeah.
Right, shall I read out the blurb to
you? Yeah.
Okay, blurb. Life is hard enough for a teenage girl in the 1950s suburbia without having a mother who may or may not be a witch. A single mother at that. Sure, she fits in with her starched dresses, string of pearls and floral aprons. Then there are the hushed and mystical consultations of neighbourhood women in distress. The unsavoury and mysterious plants in the flower beds. The divine warning to steer clear of boyfriend whose fate is certainly doomed. But as this daughter of his bewitching hellmate comes of age and her mother's claims go more and more outlandish, she begins to question everything she once took for granted.
Ooh. So this was from Prime Reads.
Yeah, I've never done Prime Reads before. Like I said, we do. People wonder, we do get some books off First Reads. Certainly, which like they give you like a book or 2 free every month to read on Amazon because I'm on Prime. But this is something I hadn't really come across this before. Had you come across this before, Amanda? Prime Reads?
Yeah, I've had a few books on it when I used to be a Prime member.
Yeah, I hadn't. It's the first time I've done it. So it was like where you can actually take a book off them. I mean, you've read it, you return it. It's like a library thing, really.
Yeah.
And this one was like people will know. It's like we've touched on Margaret Atwood books before here. And the only one that we've reviewed is Handmaid's Tale. That was a while ago, that was.
Yeah.
Now, I had a spell there, certainly, where, God, when I was growing up, I loved Handmaid's Tale. I read that one at school. And I remember shocking a few people at school on that one I did. That's why I made the men realise I had a bit more different reading taste to them. And then I read Robber Bride, alias Grace, which is that's an interesting book to review. And The Blind Assassin, it came in the next 10 years or so, and I was a big fan of it for 15 years or so, and then drifted away. But this came up on I said Prime Reads as a 32-page short story. I thought, oh yeah, let's go for it. I'm sure I'll be able to read something during one journey from, basic to and from work, which was the case in this. I read it in about an hour and a half.
Yeah. So do you start with some good points then?
Well, I've done the notes. I've done the notes this month for strengths and weaknesses.
Okay.
And if I'm honest, it's not a patch in the novels I mentioned above. It's okay. You know what I mean? But not a classic.
Yeah.
I think it's one of those ones where perhaps you should have gone into this further with the relationship between the two major characters. But it's like, and what the story is based is short, and it's certainly not a sweet study of a daughter's utter and very some cases normal contempt for a mother. But they don't get on. Really don't get on. And it's a tricky one, this, because I think you have to be a woman to read this one to understand it. Do you know what I mean, Mandy, with it?
Yeah.
I think it's, speaking from a male point of view, I don't think I bought it, in particular the references to witchcraft. And I found the references to the main character's father when she met him for the first time since she was a child curious, really, because they seemed to get on. And then, that male character got killed off 2 pages later, as much as he'd aged. And it was like, and then the mother and her are both at the funeral when the mother hadn't spoken to him for years, and let alone no references to her father's other children, which she'd had after his second marriage. So it was, I don't know, I'm a bit undecided about the story. Do you get what I mean? It's one of those sort of books where you wonder whether it just me sometimes.
Yeah.
It was like, I thought the ending was great, because after the mother died, and this is spoilers in the short story, you saw the main character's relationship with her own daughter coming full circle, wondering whether the barriers will ever be fixed, or like most parents' relationships, is the damage done by the previous generation and the one before that?
Yeah.
I don't know to understand this one. It's a really awkward one, this, because I wanted to get to know the main character by the father at the end of it, and also the two main characters get to grips with what they both wanted, and it just wasn't in the story.
No.
That's why. So it's just one of those ones where, do you ever get them when you read a short story sometimes where you think to yourself afterwards, it would have worked better as a novella, maybe even a novel?
Yeah.
I had this one. It was just, I don't know. I read it twice as well, because I thought it was this short, and I couldn't get to grips with it. I just felt it needed more than what we got, really.
So is there anything else you want to say before you give it a mark?
No, there isn't really. That's it. This one's only very short and sweet.
Okay, so what's the mark out of 10 then?
What do you think I'm going to give this?
Probably about 7.
Uh-uh.
Oh dear.
6.
Dun,
I don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. I can't. I felt like I spent about 3 hours reading it, 2.5 times really, and I couldn't get to grips with it. It's one of those. I'm glad it wasn't. If it had been like that quality, I'd say a novel, I would have abandoned it after 40, 50 pages. I was really shocked how poor it was, John. It's like I said, it's like got 4 or 5 of the books of my favourite books ever done, and I love the book version of *Handmaid's Tale*. No interest in watching the TV series. I was wondering, I'm not going to watch it because it's nothing to do with the book, as far as I can see. But the other books are brilliant, really, really good books here. I just felt to myself, this was a writer that knocked this out in, say, a couple of days, and Amazon offered her $2 million for an exclusive. Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's why I can't recommend it. Right, Amanda, it's back over to you for our finale this month. Do you want to give us any hints?
Yeah. How long is a piece of string?
How long is a piece of string, Amanda?
Guess you'll find out.
Yeah, hang around. Amanda will explain. See you all in a minute, guys. Say bye, Amanda.
Bye. I can't say it like that. Oh God, people will be tuning out if you talk like that.
I'll see you in a minute, guys.
Reading in bed.
Welcome back to Reading in Bed, episode 56. She is Amanda Nicholson.
And he is Andy N.
He is. I'm doing that again. If people are wondering, she does all the time on me, that's all. Now, seriously, okay, on to the last book for reading in bed for this month, and that is Amanda's second solo book. Right, Amanda, do you want to tell us the name and the book title and the blurb?
It's called The Measure, and it's by Nikki Erlick. And here's the blurb. Age of Miracles meets The Immortalists in this spirit-lifting, high-concept blockbuster debut set in a world where people can find out how much time they have left to live. Would you choose to find out the length of your life? One spring day, small wooden boxes arrive for every person all over the world. From suburban doorsteps to desert tents, all the boxes feature the same inscription: the measure of your life lies within, and vary in only two ways: the name of the recipient and the length of the string inside. Instantly, the world is thrust into a collective frenzy, first to ascertain the origin and meaning, and then to confront the truth of the strings. Told from multiple perspectives, The Measure introduces an unforgettable cast of characters whose lives weave and interlock with each other upon the arrival of the strings. A doctor who cannot save himself, a couple who thought they didn't have to rush, best friends whose dreams are forever entwined, pen pals finding refuge in the unknown, and a politician whose string becomes a powder keg in an increasingly turbulent world. As society divides itself, the truth has the power to unravel their long-held beliefs and relationships, all while forging new alliances and philosophies about our time on this earth and our place in the community. Both heartbreaking and profoundly uplifting, The Measure is a sweeping, ambitious meditation on life, family, and society that challenges us to consider the best way to live life to the fullest.
Interesting. Now, this was obviously people wondering if I know this was the second book you did of your, I think, Pigeonhole, wasn't it, this month?
Yeah.
Now, am I right? It's obviously thinking, Amanda, before we go into the strengths and weaknesses, but you read these both close to the same time, didn't you?
Yeah, I was about 3 days behind on this one. I started it after the other book.
I thought you had now.
For about a week, I was reading two at the same time.
No, obviously not. That's not mean that she had two split screens open at the same time. We need to stay
No,
down,
that-
don't we?
That would be weird.
That'd be very, very confusing. No. I know you were telling me, weren't you, that you were reading something, you read one, then you read the other, didn't you, straight after the other? So like I
Yeah.
said, that's why. But okay, well, how have you marked this one? Have you done this on strengths and weaknesses, have you, or have you done this as separate?
I've just done it all mixed together.
Yeah, but like I've done the same month, that's fine. Well, tell us, go into it first of all, Amanda, then. Because the premise is a fascinating premise of this book. I remember you telling me at the time on this one. I came close to actually going to get the copy of this book, actually, don't you? So tell us about this book then, Then how many characters' viewpoints are in this book then? Is it a varying characters' viewpoint book? This one,
there's quite a few actually. I've mentioned some of my favourites. So there's Nina, who's in a relationship with Mara, and then there's a building designer called Ben, and then there's Amy, who is Nina's younger sister. There's a doctor called Hank. There's a sleazy politician called Anthony. And then there's his nephew Jack, and Jack's best friend and roommate, who's called Javia. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Right. So yeah. So like I said, there is quite a bit to unpack this book then, really, isn't there? So okay, the previous book obviously we reviewed a few minutes ago. I had 3 viewpoints. This one had a number more than that. Now, how did this compare to the other book then? Because of the viewpoints, was it a trickier book to read? This one, was it?
It felt like it shared some similarities in the fact that it's asking, like, what would you do under these circumstances? Like, you get people reacting differently to it. Like, the box turns up, and once everyone figures out what it is, you get some people who refuse to look at it, and then you get some other people that open it, and one of the characters, somebody else opens it, and he feels violated that somebody's opened his box without his permission.
Interesting. Yeah. So it does. It's quite interesting. What was the pacing like then? Were they doing so many characters? Was it hard to keep track of the book, or was it fairly straightforward?
It was quite easy. I'd started making notes of the characters as I went along because I thought this is going to be difficult to keep in sort of up to date with what's going on. Because, like, at the start, most of them had like the individual storylines and didn't really come into contact with each other. But then as it goes along, they sort of like meet up or cross paths. And by the end of it, they're sort of tied to, even though they've nothing in common in different social circles, they're tied together in different ways. Like it's saying like everything's linked together. And one thing happens and it leads to another thing. So even if you don't know this person,
Yeah.
you're somehow linked to them from what happens or what happens to you.
No, of course not. Sounds interesting. Interesting. So, okay, what was the pacing pretty good in this book? Was it? Or did it seem to be
Yeah,
at
I
a good
wondered
pace?
where it was. I wondered where it was going to go and how it was going to end, because obviously you got people with long strings that are going to live for quite a long time, and then people with short strings that are going to die. And I thought it could quite easily have just got a bit lost and like taken you through hundreds or maybe even thousands of pages and watched everybody die. But it didn't do that. It did it in a sort of more condensed and clever way.
Oh, that's good then. That's good then straight away because like it's. Did it have the similarities to On the Beach where it sounded like it did to me where it wasn't? Did you reveal why this happened then?
It never revealed why it happened. It was more
Good.
about the fact that how people sort of responded to it. And it felt very much a bit like COVID in some ways, where the people responded to that, and you'd get people coming up with like conspiracy theories about these strings and saying it was the government and all sorts of other stuff. And then like some governments were like making it legal to you'd have to open your box and declare whether it was long or short, and others was taking the boxes away and like not letting people open them. And then they were like in America they were like taking rights away from people with short strings and saying like there was no point people employing them because they weren't going to live very long and there was no point investing time and money into them. So they were treated a bit like second class citizens in some ways.
Yeah, it sounds like it's quite. You think about it, really. There's a nice parallel between this and Nevil Shute on the beach, basically. And that book itself was before, as before, was like the people's as accepted the lives. This seems like it's gone the other way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's quite interesting, that really. So yeah. Now, obviously, were you satisfied with the ending of the book? I don't know if we can't give away what the ending was. I don't want to.
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was a good way to end because I think it's the kind of thing could go on forever. I think it ended at the right time and in the right way.
Yeah, of course. So, okay. Is there anything that you need to take a touch on? You say you weren't very keen on with this book.
No, I just felt like even though it's fiction, it felt very sort of like there were a lot of important messages in it. Like we all like go on and say life's short, you should live your life, and then people go out and do things, and then I think you just sort of fall into like what you know, and you sort of don't really like try new things anymore.
Hmm.
And it's just sort of a reminder, that like someone can live for 30 years and barely do anything. And then someone else can live for 3 years and they can achieve more than that person's achieved in 30 years. So
Yeah.
it's more about what you do in that time than how long you have.
Yeah. I think the saying is like it's life's what you make of it, really, isn't it? So yeah, no, of
Yeah.
course. No, good stuff. Good stuff. Now, is there anything else you need to touch on about this book before you mark it?
No, I think that covers everything.
Okay, well, give us the mark.
I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10.
Whoa! 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. I need to get a jingle set up for 10 out of 10, don't I?
Yeah, there's like buzzers going off and stuff and fireworks shooting up in the air.
Well, no, don't do it manually for you, no. Oh, bloody, I wasn't expecting that one. 10 out of 10. Whoa. Hey, look at that, guys and girls there. Amanda's eased herself up. Going from 6 to 9 to 10.
Yeah,
Well
see,
done.
we're ending on a positive note.
Yeah, more positive than I was expecting as well. Fantastic. Right, okay, guys and girls. Yeah, well, that's it. Anyway, for episode 56 of Reading in Bed. Right, next month, well, I'm on a joint, I've started on a joint book already. And I don't know if Amanda's remembered she's agreed to this one as well.
I have, yeah.
Well, the joint book I'm currently reading, and you've not started as yet, Amanda, have you? So,
No.
is by Billy Jade Kamak, and it's called Awoke. This is 392 pages. I've read nearly hundreds of it. So, and I have read two other books, and I'll admit to what they are. Whether I review these or not, wait and see. I have read over this past month Vamp, The Rise and Fall of Fear Bara by Eve Golden, which is about do you know what vamps are, Amanda? Not vampires, vamps.
No, I don't know.
They are in the 1910s, 20s really as well. In very early Hollywood, there was a film creation called A Vamp, which was a cruel woman that used to lure men away from their wives into tragedy. And she was with the problem with that, Hollywood's first sex symbols, really. Quite an interesting lady. And I've also read as well, that was a biography I've read. And I've also read John Buchan's The 39 Steps, which is one of my dad's favourite books, actually, as well. So whether I review those two with the other book next month, who knows? There is other stuff I want to read, so I'll wait and see. Well, what have you got prepared for next month, Amanda?
So I'm reading or listening to an audiobook by David Jackson. And then I said Peter Jackson.
Well, I know Peter Jackson. It's not that Peter Jackson.
No, David Jackson, and it's called No Strangers. And I'm also reading a book. We're going to start reading a book. I don't know if you're going to read this for the next month. It's called The Twisted Ones.
Oh God, I'm doing that. Yeah, I have got that downloaded. A lot of it depends on. Like I said, I've got a couple books read, so it's a case you're trying to get through things, isn't it? So I've read. Well, we'll see. Because I'm off. People wondering for work about August, so I might have a bit of time, but I'm often running around then, so we'll see. Right, Amanda. Anyway, we'll wrap up here.
Okay.
I thought we were going to straight silence off you then. That's the first time. That's true. You made me go beep. You made me go beep today already. So we've already got the adult content one in this podcast. So, all right, I'll let you say bye, Emma.
Bye, everyone.
See you all next time, guys. She says and I said, stay safe, look after yourselves, okay? And most importantly, keep reading. And if anybody got a good free books to want to send to us, send them to us. Can't promise we'll review them nicely, but we will give an honest review as always, Amanda, won't we? So,
yeah.
See you all next time, guys. Take care. Bye. I say bye.
Bye.
Read in bed.